Hello, welcome. Thanks for tuning in to our Building Fireplaces with U-Cara Modular Cabinets. We're really excited to be presenting this to you. If I could give you a best way to think about it, would be is if you had that really older brother that you kind of just always butt heads with, but when you have a really good day, it all falls in place. And that's kind of what's happened here with Bruce and I. He's that older brother, and I think we spend a lot of time and effort on these units so that we can bring this to life for you guys.
Older, just
a couple older
just
than
one
there.
older.
Or that's good
Just
too.
one older.
He
only meant one older.
We'll go with that. But it really is that whole process, right? Bruce and I have spent countless hours making this probably as easy as we can do. So we're taking all the guesswork, all the hard work out of some of these complicated builds, and that's what you're going to see throughout this whole presentation. First on the gas linear fireplace here, and then Bruce is really going to take the baton here and run with some of the wood burning units that are going to be some really cool features. So one of the things that we do know is that a fireplace feature is probably the focal point of any job site, and it's one of the most asked for builds that you guys will encounter on most jobs. And so taking that to mind, we know that also a square or round fire pit is an easy enough build. We're not going to waste your time, we're not going to waste our time going into that build because, again, it's pretty straightforward. But what we will want to do is go into some of these more complicated builds, right, and take away that complexity part and make it as easy as possible. The wood unit you're seeing here is our take on a modern see-through unit. But again, the time to build this, start to finish, is 2 hours, right? So last year we had that hour-and-a-half L-shaped kitchen build. This year we're stepping it up and we're doing a 2-hour see-through fireplace build. And that's kind of the progression with this system, is every year we're going to try to do better. And a lot of that comes from input from you guys, right? Bruce and I are lucky enough to be able to go to job sites. We talk to a lot of people across the country, up in Canada, and we get a lot of ideas from you guys. So this is one thing that I think we had enough people ask us about, some sort of kind of a focal point feature, right? I think this is it. I think this fits that bill. And so what you'll see is that, again, by taking that complexity out, we're taking away some of those cuts, right? And in this actual particular feature, we are taking away all the cuts. So this unit itself, built this way, like you see here, is actually 0 cuts, again, with the exception of our minor cuts on our 3-inch accent panels. Again, if we took these out and just paneled this all the way up without the accent here, we stay true to a 0 cut dimension, which is exactly kind of our goal for most of these units, right? Sometimes they're unavoidable, but again, if we can, we'll make it so that it's easy as possible for you guys. A couple other things to note, right? You can kind of see here, we have our corner detail here, and it wraps around to the inside. You can kind of see that better on that part of there. And so that was one feature that we had to work and figure out how to do that, so that, again, you're not fabricating on the job site, you're not cutting metal, you're not fastening things like we have in the past. We want to take that guesswork out for you. So you'll see when we show the unboxing of the unit, you'll show how we did that. The other thing too, obviously, you see right through the unit. Again, that's a feature that normally on a typical build, we would have some sort of lentil piece here, some sort of angle iron to support this structure, both front side and back side. Again, that is taken out. We don't have to do that anymore. The unit itself will provide that strength and that structure there. One of my favorite parts, and probably Bruce's favorite part, Bruce likes to save a couple bucks here and there, is we took that linear fireplace feature insert that runs easily $2,000 to $3,000, right? And we swapped it out for a nice, really easy, pretty reliable H-pan that you see there. That's a 36-inch unit. We are going to basically recommend that you stay to that size, 36-inch or below. Again, this is a double wide H-pan, so that gives you the 2 lines, more than enough heat to come out of this unit. But again, we're swapping that in, makes it a lot easier to build, makes it an economical build for your homeowner, and makes it a lot easier for you guys on that back end. So again, some of those things that we took out of there to make it an easier build. The other thing that we did, and we'll kind of go into this more detail when Bruce helps me out with the unboxing here, but what you'll notice if I take away the this panel here, this half panel, you notice that we have some backer blocks here, right? We wanted to give you as much flexibility when it comes to how you're going to build these, the dimensions that you're going to use for these. So, and Bruce will probably get into a little bit more detail on this feature here, but you'll see that we ended up building the first 2 rows with backer block, right? One of the things, again, in keeping true to the cabinet mantra, these are very lightweight. This whole unit, as you see it, is about 1,600 pounds, give or take, right? Still very lightweight for the size of the unit. But that allows us to basically figure out on the bottom there that we're still going to recommend, and Bruce, correct me if I'm wrong, but we'll still probably recommend a concrete base on that bottom piece, right? That's best practice. I think we're comfortable sticking to that. I think there's enough time savings on the back end when you're building this that a poured in place footing is probably still the recommended spec there. But realize that if you do pour that concrete footer, right, now I have the ability, to put backer block on top and build up to whatever height you like, or you can actually build that concrete pour or have that concrete pour go up as high or whatever height you want. And now encompassing our true Ucara wall system, we can take our Ucara wall mount rails and fix them onto the concrete, and now you can again hang fascia panels on those rails. So whatever the method you want to use, you have options, and I think that's where this system really shines. So again, we'll get into a little bit more of that in detail, but I just wanted to show the combination of those 2 systems there. The other thing I want to kind of touch on is when I said no cut, this is the what you'll see, right? This is a standard corner detail. So you will notice that we do have a joint line here, and then obviously we have it down here as well. Now, again, not a big deal, but I think to some people, you might want to aesthetically keep that look from top to bottom. So on this side, if you choose to keep that same kind of faux joint, you will have a couple of cuts to make that possible. But again, you do have either option. Bruce's method, which is the easy way out. I'm just kidding, Bruce. Or a little bit more detail here where you can kind of keep it. But again, really up to you guys. And again, you have that flexibility there. Doesn't have much time here, right? We're not adding a ton of time. If you do try to go with a couple of cuts here, realize that it's only on these front ends and on the back side if you need to show that. But again, a couple of things to note there. The other thing that I think is really unique is, and you'll see that when we have the frame cut up, is the ability to change the width of this unit. So basically the footprint of it will stay fixed on the length, but we can change the dimension here, right? Our width or our depth can go with a standard end-clad unit, which you see here, which is already part of our U-Cara modular cabinet line, or I can go to an oversized, which is actually the one you're seeing here. So the unit here, as I see it, is 41.5 inches wide by 83 inches long, with panels that'll give you that, what do you call it? What is that, 87 inches in length? So 87 by 41.5. If you want to go a little bit smaller on that footprint, you go ahead and swap out that oversized end clad for a standard end clad, and now that gives me a 32.5 inch wide unit. Again, a little bit smaller footprint, again, to fit whatever the job site may call for. All right, now I'm going to actually ask Bruce to help me here, and I'm going to rely on Bruce's experience. I think that's what we're going to call it now. I've been told and slapped on the hand for picking on my guy too much.
Thank you, Auggie.
We're gonna
Youth
rely
and beauty. I appreciate
Bruce's,
these adjectives involved here, but all right, let's introduce new for 2021. Right, the Fireplace Component. This is kind of the component that you're going to see. We stood it up on end in your direction to kind of show you what makes it unique. Obviously, Auggie talked about the overall lengths, but I want to point out the bolt positions here. All right, so again, end clads. You want to pull an end clad. We have, as in any of our cabinet systems, the mounting positions here for attachment of an end clad on the exterior. But notice too on the interior here, at 18.5 inches, which is our Ucara dimension, to achieve 0 cuts, we have that opportunity to install an end clad there. So the fireplace component, all right, on 4 end-clad kits that would be attached here on the ends and then on the interior cavities facing each other.
Right, and that's a great point that Bruce made. So when you guys order your fireplace kit, you'll get these 2 panels here, and then again, based on your decision on what width you want to see here, you would order for a see-through 4 standards or 4 oversized, and that basically is your order there for this unit here, just like you see it back there.
What I like to do during the construction of this is I would attach those end clads here on the end, here in the middle, all right, here in this interior cavity, but then I'll keep this end clad off, all right, for a temporary position. The reason is that allows me the opportunity now, if you look at a fireplace, if it was going to be true wall material or a wider material, I'd have limited workability to be able to connect that attachment here, that fire pan. So you can keep that end clad off a little bit, actually run that material around. It's going to be structurally sound, being held together front and back with these 3 end clads, all right? So kind of gives you, it allows you the opportunity to get your valve, if you've got, installed as well as plumbed into that fixture as well. Recognize, you know, the municipal codes. If it's concrete, that gas line needs to come up, hard pipe and things like that. Know all of your codes when it comes to the installation of the fireplace, specifically, you know, gas related here.
Right,
in the
and
back.
that's a great point. Couple other things to note. You'll see the unit that we have, the panel we have here is actually the backside panel. And the reason we know that is because of this structural component right down the middle. That's going to stiffen up this frame to give you the option of having a backside to this. And now one of the unique things that we can also do is we have the capability of doing that see-through, but like we mentioned, we can also make this a one-sided feature. And the easy way to do that, and kind of, Bruce will help me here, we'll lay this back down, and I'll bring over some hardware for Bruce. Here you go.
Corner bracket. What I would do with this, if you're going to panel that backside of that opening, we'd attach that here along this rail with some self-tappers. Now recognize this is where we saw cut that opening out, all right? Augie's holding that cutout off of that cabinet that we've got there.
Right.
But to reattach it in the back, we'll simply do a self-tapper here on the sides.
Right, so you can kind of imagine this is that piece here,
And then
we'll
that's
take that
going to
one.
be laid right up on top.
and we'll lay it right back here.
Okay. Then I'll do my self-tapping screws down into both sides of that rail.
Right.
All right. I'll stand this back up a little bit. Make sure when you do a self-tapping screw here, you position that screw to the top part. Reason is that falls in the void cavity of the Ucara fascia panels. All right. Here in the bottom, so you won't have to do any kind of amendment. Your panel should hang true, all right, and not be askewed by the head of that screw.
Right.
So maintaining that position when you reattach this to that backside has been helpful.
Right. And then just to kind of give you guys the final visual, the reason we attach that cutout to that front side of that unit is now, if you can imagine, if we just want a one-sided feature, now we have the ability to put panels and hang panels both on the inside and the backside of that panel unit right there. So now we would have a nice walled off front side fire feature for everyone to enjoy. Again, you can do a multitude of things with this, from your footprint to one or a single or double-sided type of unit. So again, I think for its intents and purposes, I think it hits the mark. I think we get efficiency, very economical when it comes to the actual price point, and then we also have the ability to make it a very fast build, eliminating a lot of those extra steps that you would normally take on a build like this. Before we wrap up, one of the last things we want to talk about is, again, you'll see that this unit here, we do have a pass-through for the top. Most likely, you're going to have a big slab of granite or some sort of slab to cap this. And so we will probably recommend that some sort of heat shield. You can kind of see here, we have one that fits right in there that we sourced. There's a multitude of different options, but again, some sort of barrier to slow down that heat transfer so that you protect a little bit on top of that slab. Probably a good best practice there as well.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I agree, Og. and it directs heat a little bit more out toward where the
Right.
homeowner wants actually that heat element to be. All right. So instead of worrying about any kind of heat directly at that countertop, which potentially could fracture a granite or any other kind of countertop medium,
Right.
I think that a heat shield, again, is kind of a best practice for us. You can get some flat stock available at some of the box stores, right? Make sure that it's either stainless or galvanized, obviously, in an exterior application here.
Right. So I think Bruce, unless I'm forgetting something, I think we can move on to kind of the more, I think you're excited more on the wood burning features there.
No, I appreciate that. And again, to kind of reiterate Augie's presentation on that, this is a real easy build. So easy meaning hopefully good opportunity if you're an owner or a salesperson in a company to create a fire feature that's a focal point. This could be a home run if you have natural gas available to you to be able to do that. And I guess even if you wanted it to be propane, you have these interior cavities.
Right.
That being said, to install gas tanks if necessary. You know, entry into it might be a bit of a challenge, but certainly propane might be something available to that installation as well.
Yeah.
So, that being said, let's move on a little bit towards some of the opportunities that are available when it comes to wood burning in a fireplace application. As a young buck, being Augie's age, I worked with masons quite a bit, and I noticed that some of the better masons were always involved in fireplace construction on the inside of a house and things like that. So, but I learned quite a bit, and in the exterior application, I think that some of the things that we learned about downdrafts and things like that is where I'd like to start with you guys. So recognize that municipalities oftentimes govern some distances of a fire feature away from the residents. Oftentimes we see here in our marketplace about 25 feet or more, all right? In other words, they don't want you building fire features directly related to proximity of the residents. So check and investigate some of those municipal codes. Even here with gas, potentially that might come up into play. The other thing too is be aware of prevailing winds. All right, so when you're in the design features of any kind of wood fireplace like this, prevailing winds, if they're westerly winds coming over and you're doing an installation on the east side of that residence on a two-story house, potentially you'll have downdraft effect. So meaning winds prevailing and actually pushing smoke down. So what that does is presents a little bit of a challenge on a wood burning fireplace. Oftentimes you might see carbon and residue deposited here. We'll go over how we identified some of that and how we deal with that a little bit more effectively and what you're going to offer here with this cabinet system. But again, recognize if you've got proximity on the east side of that residence that you're building on, maybe you want to create a little bit further distance if at all possible in that backyard design. All right, but know the codes, know what the laws are in your land. Pay attention to that. It's well worth a phone call to that city or municipality to identify what those might be as far as restrictions, all right? Okay, again with the Ucara cabinet system here, with the wood burning fireplace now. Same thing, we're using the cabinet system here basically as a footprint, all right? And we're gonna identify that and mark that basically cabinet footprint over our concrete subbase. We're going to continue that because we're adding a little bit more weight through each phase of this installation. And here with the wood burning, Augie mentioned about 1,500 pounds. We're another 1,000 pounds on top of that. One thing that is typical with a wood burning fireplace is a hearth. So while Augie's got a gas burning and kind of clean lines, no hearth involved in the construction of that. Typically here with a wood burning, you're going to install a hearth area. The thing that I also like, and even getting back to Augie's cabinet system there, you as a designer have the opportunity to create whatever facade you want. That's what I love about Ucara, is you guys have that opportunity to decide, do you want it clean and contemporary looking, both in color and texture, or do you want it more traditional, earth tones? What are your accent pieces? You choose as a designer on that installation. And I like that flexibility. So that's one of the things that really gravitates me anyways during display installations and things that I do toward the Ucara and the Ucara cabinet system. So let's back up. here at that hearth installation, typically you like to keep that flame source a little bit lower. Hearth is typically here with the Ucara backers 12 inches above grade oftentimes, but just as in the gas cabinet, I can elevate that or I can diminish that, whatever you so choose, and that's more design factor as well. Here, to maintain 0 cuts, we extend what that cabinet dimensions in by 9 1/4 inches. So we'll lay our footprint out at 9 1/4 inches, which is a half panel dimension, to extend that hearth out. That allows us the opportunity to create this area here, all right, up to the fireplace.
Right.
One thing you're gonna notice here with this cabinet system as we work our way up, you're gonna have this saw cut already drawn out and these returns in place that will be bolted and connected here in place. So that's nice. And the reason that we have those connection points here for these returns is because of the placement of this flue. So here with an Astrea insert, which is a real common insert, 36 inches in dimension across, you're going to notice that this chimney here to install these flues needs to be pushed back that 6 inches.
Right. Bruce, and let me stop you right there, because one of the things that I think we should key in on, and I think it's where I think these units really shine, because again, what Bruce just kind of mentioned here, and again, this is kind of a nice detail of it. It's already covered up and paneled up, but that one right by him that's opened up is kind of, you know, through the, you know, I don't know how many times we've prototyped this, Bruce. This is the final prototype. So what you're seeing here is basically the, I think, 4th or 5th generation of a redesign between Bruce and I, some of the other Unilock locations, and then our manufacturer, to bring you basically what you see here already. So as Bruce talks about that return there, when you order this wood-burning fireplace kit, it's already going to have that detail built in, right? So we're not going to have to cut, add, and fabricate on site. All that work that is going to take time has already been done for you on the manufacturing side. So I think that's the really beauty of these things, and I think that's why we're excited again. You know, kind of like we talked about with the gas unit, we're taking the difficulty part out and leaving it more so that you guys can get creative and put more time into how you make these cool and how you make them your own, right?
Sure.
And so what you'll see there with Bruce is, again, you know, as he mentioned down at the bottom, we're going to keep no cut dimensions. This whole unit stays no cut. We're now, with the exception of these 2 corners. So on this whole build, Bruce, you have basically cuts on this side and then that front side, and the rest you can run standard panels. Okay.
Yeah, 12 cuts basically here on that front veneer, you know, 6 on each side. So a couple of things though that are a challenge once we do push that item back is we have a void space. We've created this void space here. Again, no lentil necessary to support this. We put our coping directly over top, right? But they're going to include some angle iron that will seal this off. It's not going to be a tight seal. We don't request a tight seal. Again, if we do have any backdraft, all right, until we get enough flame generated here where smoke is going to be pushed out, obviously, through the chimney system, what you're going to see then is the ability for this to kind of work its way up on the interior of that and not leave carbon marks and prevent that homeowner from calling you and saying that that fireplace isn't working. So we've kind of addressed some of those challenges that might prevail on your job, all right, ahead of time here with development of the cabinet system. A couple other things that make this nice is the mantelpiece here. The mantelpiece, this front structure, they're going to be 12 inches, and you're going to have more tube steel here. So in other words, this is a more structural component across here. I can build my mantle in front of that here, and the homeowner can personalize that, but this now becomes a structural component that is going to support the chimney that you're going to construct, all right? Again, I like to set the backers, set the appliances, set the cabinet over, all right? Plumb that if I have a log lighter, if necessary, before I close off, and then I'll begin my build up. Usually here in the Midwest, we sell the insert with the 18-inch flue and then a 36-inch flue, both in 2 dimensions. This is the interior 8-inch that handles the smoke. And then there's an exterior 12-inch that is more for heat deflection and things like that. All right. But all of that works out with the cabinet system as you would see it here. Both here starting at 42, all right, the 12 inches here, and then another 42-inch cabinet on that chimney that we'll get to here in a little bit as we work our way up.
Right. So all said and done, Bruce, you're probably just short of about 10 feet on this build here, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So here you've got some options when it comes to the construction of the chimney. So right here we've got the mantle with pillar, what we're going to call pillar end clad, which is a smaller element. It could be a standard, all right, which is this dimension here. So you've got that opportunity. Augie talked about the oversized on the base. Well, you kind of want to cascade in a little bit, I think, on the design and construction of this, all right, mostly for aesthetics, but partially too because of some of the features that you're going to see in front with the flues and things like that. Important to have that spark arrestor in place. It does fit in just below here. I've got ledge stone at that chimney cap that can be cut around that perimeter, all right? And then that spark arrestor fits on top of that. So kind of a clean look, I think, if you want to, if you really want some type of ornamental feature up on top of that, certainly you can go and spend quite a bit of money on getting a feature like that if that homeowner is requesting that of you. So here on the very top of that chimney, you certainly do have some viable options for you, other than just the simple spark arrestor that you see here.
Yep. I think, again, I think it takes a lot of that time and skill level that, you know, we all have that. I think everyone is pretty aware that they can build these fireplaces. You know, but again, I think the name of the game right now is try to, you know, move the crew from one job to the next as efficiently as possible. So I think this kind of helps in that direction. I think it's going to allow a couple of those things to be done. Now, the one thing that I think if we move over kind of to the unit right next to Bruce there, you know, we took this 36-inch unit and we kind of tried to scale that up a little bit to now a 42-inch unit. You know, we saw a couple of those builds this past year. I think, again, it allows for that flexibility there when it comes to what you want to show your client. And really, and I'll kind of let Bruce get into a little bit, but really there isn't too much changing from what Bruce just went over. We're just talking about bigger components, right?
Yep.
Bruce, the one big detail that you'll notice is that cabinet, base cabinet on top there, right? I think everyone can kind of think back to a lot of the installations you've done where you've had a fireplace and how many homeowners would like that really nice flat screen TV on top there. And so kind of that's what that's showing there, right? We have all these components that we can kind of mix and match, right, Bruce? Get, you know, basically a plethora of options for your client. So Bruce, why don't you kind of go over a little bit of the detail work on that one and what makes it a little bit different?
Yeah, you know, as we worked our way up, let's go backwards on this one, all right? Augie kind of touched on it right here. We've been on a number of job sites where this is a focal feature at the end of perhaps a pavilion or something like that, excuse me, in that backyard application. So here we've got the larger cabinet that could you do a flat screen exterior TV mount onto. You've got enough distance away from the cavity to import both your projection cables as well as your power cables, all right, away from your heat source. Now the heat source is protected with 2 flue liners, all right, so there shouldn't be a transmission of heat that would compromise the integrity of the workability of that TV mounted above a wood burning fireplace, all right? So certainly is an opportunity here with the cabinet system that I think is challenged a little bit if we're going to scratch build or do any type of fireplace installation. So this somewhat really simplifies it here, all right? And again, 0 cuts. So we've got 0 cuts on the standard base cabinet. This one is the oversized mantelpiece, all right? You're going to notice a little bit more depth on that. And again, we've done that with contractors only because we want enough airspace in there not to compromise the integrity of your electrical or cable work, all right? This larger oversized piece is going to be a longer mantel shelf, again supported here in the interior, all right, which is going to help support the weight of this front end. This is more of a standard depth, versus we were at pillar depth over there on the 36-inch. Here with the 42, you know, again, real similar construction characteristics that you see here that we've already done there with the 36. This one, we've only went up one course with the backers, so we kept that relatively low. You certainly can do, you know, multiple courses depending on what you feel, you know, your homeowner might prefer on that installation, or you as a designer salesperson might want to see that crew install. Recognized here at the mantelpiece, I like it up that extra course of backer that we have over on that 36, and that's only to achieve a higher mantel piece, all right, in elevation. So this is kind of more aesthetics, but again, we wanted to show basically two kind of components here, right? And again, this is all about your opportunity to kind of create here. Just as Auggie mentioned a little bit ago, you can do clean and contemporary with Ucara panels that are smooth and in our gray tones, or you can get into more natural tones here and create a little bit more of a warmer feel. So that's the beauty. It's the structure here in the cabinet system that really allows you the opportunity to kind of create accents, whatever you feel fit and are comfortable with on your installation in that job site.
And as with anything new, you know, obviously there's gonna be a lot of questions around how do I do this, how is that gonna happen. We will have supplemental manuals like we did for the cabinets when we initially launched out to give you that. We will have some of these videos accessible to all of you. But more importantly, reach out to your territory manager. They're the best, you know, resource that you guys will have. You know, a lot of times they can reach out to Bruce and I.
Right.
We can reach out to.
We support the territory managers. You know, so.
Right.
You know, that's the beauty about Unilock is your territory manager has that background R&D support that Auggie and I have worked on to try to develop these for you as installers.
Right. And as we see these being used in all markets, right, not just the Midwest, we have East Coast, we have West Coast, we have Canada. You know, we're there to support every location. We have that structural piece and structural component that, again, we fan out to all locations. So, again, feel free, ask away, get questions, get these in your hands, start building. And again, don't forget to post those pictures, send them to your reps, post them on Instagram. We love actually seeing everything you guys do with this stuff. So again, thanks for your time. Thank you, Bruce, and till we talk again.
Thank you.